Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Informed in 5. Today's guest is Sarah Franklin. She is the Executive Director of the Mississippi Epilepsy Foundation. And today she joins us to share information about the organization and ways that you can help spread awareness about epilepsy across the state. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah.
Thanks, Brittany, for having me. It's so good to meet you over Zoom and I hope soon in person. And yes, like you said, I work for the Epilepsy Foundation and the Mississippi chapter. And the mission of the Epilepsy Foundation is to lead the fight to overcome the challenges of living with epilepsy and to accelerate therapies to stop seizures, find cures, and save lives. There are more than 35,000 people living with epilepsy in Mississippi, and those calculations were done by the CDC in 2015. And we think that those numbers are probably higher now. We're a little underestimated. So there are certainly a great number of people that are affected by seizures in the state. Yeah, so November is National Epilepsy Awareness Month. So it's something that we certainly celebrate in Mississippi to spread awareness. You know, not everyone knows that 1 in 10 people will have a seizure at some point in their lives, and 1 in 26 will develop epilepsy. I know before I started having seizures myself at age 30, I did not know those statistics. 1 in 10 is really, really high. And so 10% of people will have a single seizure in their life, and 1 in 26 will have epilepsy, which that's just a word that means recurring unprovoked seizures. So if you have more than one seizure, you know, consult with the doctor, but it's more than likely epilepsy. And so it's a disorder that's often overlooked, or there's a big stigma around it. And so we work to remove the filter is what our national campaign was this year that we worked on even in Mississippi, and just remove the stigma with it and really encourage people that if they don't have seizure control to make sure they're seeking specialist care. And we had a really fun night in central Mississippi about a little bit before Thanksgiving. And it was called Glow the Night to End the Fight Challenge. And a bunch of the doctors from St. Dominic's and University of Mississippi Medical Center and Children's of Mississippi and the Baptist Hospital all gathered around, and patients with epilepsy. And we had purple glow sticks and just had entertainment and walked around the district at Eastover, which was a wonderful venue that donated space for our walk. And it was just really great to rally around each other and to see that we're not alone in this journey. There's a number of ways that people can get involved. We have a local board, and it has board members from the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, the Delta, the Central Mississippi, all areas. And so we have about 12 board members now, and we are looking to add several more at the beginning of each year. So in 2022. So anyone can email mississippi@efa.org to get involved. That would be one way, is to roll on the board. Another way would be to become a Kids Crew member. It's completely free, Epilepsy Foundation Kids Crew. And that is for any children that have epilepsy themselves or their siblings, cousins, friends. You're sent information each month of how to spread epilepsy awareness and how to educate others, and fun activities to do to learn about the brain and more. And we do have Kids Crew meetups virtually and in person. And then we also have, for teenagers or adults, we have a program called Epilepsy Awareness Ambassadors. And those ambassadors, we have 2 right now from Mississippi that are active and want to grow that number. But those are teenagers or adults that really they participate in an onboarding process and become official ambassadors, and are given activities and ideas each month of what to do as well. Nothing's required of them to do each month. You get to kind of choose, and as long as you participate in one thing per month, you are an ambassador. So you know, a lot of people with epilepsy think that they're the only ones dealing with it, but they're not. And so this is a really great way to connect and meet others going through similar journeys. And that's also good for caregivers too. So, you know, you can become an ambassador if you have epilepsy, or if you're a caregiver of a child with epilepsy. It's really wide open, and we have a bunch of people that participate in different ways. And then we also have different events. Epilepsy Foundation Mississippi has historically held an annual gala every year. So we're looking to plan with our board what that might look like next year. And, you know, with COVID, it's been different as far as the gala, but we hope to return to even more in-person events as the pandemic hopefully eases up even more as time goes on. And then we have walk-stand epilepsy and more. So there's tons of ways to get involved with what we're doing as far as activities. And then I'll also speak about education shortly.
Can you share with us more details about Seizure Safe Schools Act that will be introduced soon in Mississippi and why it's needed?
Yes. So Seizure Safe Schools is something that I'm really excited about. It's probably what I spend a lot of my day on. It is our highest advocacy priority on the state level from the Epilepsy Foundation of America. In the past 2 years, there have been 12 states that have passed Seizure Safe Schools Act. And we want Mississippi to be on the first half of the states that passed this act. So I've recently been meeting with Pete Smith from the Mississippi Department of Education and David Roberts from the Mississippi Medical Association and Lee Yancey, he's a state representative on the Drug Policy Committee. And we've just been trying to rally the troops. Our board and myself, we're all working to get the bill pre-filed. And State Representative Jill Ford and Deborah Gibbs from the Madison area have agreed to be our House champions on helping it get it introduced. So we are really, really, really excited about that. And we will need, we want all 35,000 plus people with epilepsy in Mississippi to help us make sure that it's a priority next year, because as everyone knows, COVID has changed life in so many ways. And a lot of that is with stress and mental health, and stress is often one of the highest triggers of seizures. And so we know that there's probably been increased seizure activity, especially in schools, and we want educators, we know they have so much on their plate already. And we just want them to feel confident in what they need to do, how they can handle a seizure if it happens in a school setting, and they often do. And then another thing that we're really excited about is several years ago in 2014, Mississippi passed a law similar to the Seizure Safe Schools Act. This was modeled after that to allow EpiPen delegation in schools. And so we want, EpiPen delegation. And so it allows, if a school nurse is not on campus, a trained school personnel would be allowed to give it in an emergency. And so now the FDA has approved new seizure rescue medicine that can stop seizures with a nasal spray. And those are brand new. We've never had those before. And so children are from Children's of Mississippi and more, they're being prescribed this all over the state, but no one is allowed to give it to them in a school setting. And so we want them, we want the law to say that a trained school personnel would be allowed to give a seizure rescue medicine in a school setting if the nurse isn't there. And not every school has a school nurse, and that's not a Mississippi problem. It's really an American problem. We want school nurses in every school, but even if we had that, we would still want this bill passed, since the nurse can't be on every school bus, every practice, every end of every hallway, and seizures are unpredictable. We don't know when and where they'll happen. About 3.5 years ago, I started having seizures myself, and I've learned so much since then, which ultimately led me to this role. But I kind of thought of seizures as just someone convulsing and lying on the floor. And that's, of course, a type of seizure. A lot of people call it grand mal. The technical word that medical people are using now is tonic-clonic seizure. But convulsing seizures are not the most common type. Oftentimes people may be misdiagnosed with ADD or ADHD or daydreaming. Sometimes it might just look like staring off or blinking. I know some of the seizures that I had were just me clacking my lips and laughing and not responding. And so there are so many different types of seizures, and so many are unique to the person. But really what a seizure is electrical activity in the brain. So when you're getting an MRI or an EEG, you can see the electrical activity moving. And so a lot of times it is hard to diagnose, but it's really good if parents or someone can get a video of what's happening so that a doctor can see and say, okay, that does look like a seizure, because it's hard often to make a seizure happen when you're right in front of the doctor. And so we encourage everyone to go to learn.epilepsy.com and make an account. That's our free online learning portal. And it has a training session, number of courses, but the one that I would encourage everyone watching on the MSPTI Informed in 5 section is to become seizure recognition and first aid certified. So it's about an hour-long program but you take a pre-test, you watch a course, and then you take a post-test, and you become seizure first aid certified. So everyone is familiar with becoming CPR certified, which CPR is not what you do when someone has a seizure. But as of 2020, for decades, the Epilepsy Foundation of Mississippi has been doing a great job of teaching people what to do when someone has a seizure, but it's more been just a education presentation. Now you can take the pre-test and the post-test and become certified, and you get emailed a certificate, and you're certified in seizure first aid for 2 years, similar to what people are familiar with for CPR. So that's something new that we're excited about. And I know the healthcare providers that we've talked to in Mississippi are really excited about it for people new to the diagnosis, or really just since seizures are so common, 1 in 10 people, we think everyone should become seizure first aid certified. Remember, there are 3 S's. So stay safe side. And so really broken down, that means to stay with the person, make sure they're safe and away from harm. So like they're not gonna fall off and hit a hard substance. If there's a towel or something you have that you can put under their head, do that, and then turn them on their side so that they don't asphyxiate on the saliva that's coming out. So that's stay safe side. And the other important thing is to watch like a clock or your phone or your watch, something like that, when the seizure starts, and time the seizure to make sure to note how long it lasts, because most seizures end on their own in 1 to 2 minutes. But if it lasts 5 minutes or longer, it's an emergency, and we need to call 911. So make sure, every seizure is going to feel like it lasts 10 or 20 minutes when you're watching it, because they are scary to watch, and we know that, but it feels a lot longer than it is. But if it does get to 5 minutes, then we do need to call for 911, even if that person has a diagnosis of epilepsy. And if you don't know if it's someone's first seizure, if you don't know the person, don't ever hesitate to call 911. You can always do that, but it's not always necessary based on the person's directions from their doctor. I would just highly encourage anyone watching to visit learn.epilepsy.com. And that's really our new online learning portal that we're pushing in Mississippi and across America. And it is the learning portal. You can become seizure first aid certified, but it also has our seizure safe schools courses. And you don't have to have seizure safe schools passed for teachers to take the course. Like I know there's one school district in Mississippi that all their personnel have already taken the course. There's school nurse training, school personnel trainings. There's also workplace trainings for seizures and more. So we're continuously adding to those courses. And I just can't brag enough on that website. I wish I could have had the site when I was diagnosed with epilepsy myself. We have our website, epilepsy.com/Mississippi is a good way to find contact info. And we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then as Epilepsy Foundation Mississippi. And another good way would be to email Mississippi@efa.org.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing this great information.